The sky burned with streaks of violet fire as the 11th moon of Carath split apart like glass under pressure. Shards of its molten core rained down across the orbital field where Admiral Threx of the Valeri Empire watched in silence. His command ship trembled from the nearby shockwaves, but he didn't flinch. After 172 years of war, destruction had become mundane. On the bridge, the murmurs of his crew were hushed, their luminous eyes dimmed by exhaustion. They no longer cheered at victories. There were no celebrations, no songs, only silence and the occasional update. Fleet Gamma has been wiped out. Oh, Sector Delta is lost again. The war had no end, only repetition. Offensives launched. Borders gained, then lost. Generals promoted, then buried. Threx himself had died once. Technically, reconstructed in a regeneration cradle. His body was new, but his soul remained scarred. The war, as it stood now, wasn't between two factions. It had metastasized. Over 36 intelligent species now fought in fractured alliances, old enemies becoming allies out of convenience, then traitors again. The Council of Galactica had collapsed in the 38th year. The Vortari disappeared in the 90th. Entire planets turned into graveyards. And Earth had said nothing. Threx remembered Earth's transmissions, back when they first pierced the galactic veil 2 centuries ago. Primitive, but promising. By all estimates, humanity should have been knee-deep in this war decades ago. Their population had surged. Their technology evolved faster than any other species in known memory. Then, silence. No ships. No ambassadors. Just whispers. Some claimed Earth had imploded in civil conflict. Others said they transcended. Many believed they were cowards. Threx had once dismissed them entirely. Until now. Admiral. A voice crackled through the comms. You need to see this. He turned slowly, bones aching despite the synthetic augmentation. Go on. A holographic transmission flickered to life at the center of the bridge. It was not addressed to any one faction. It pulsed on every known frequency, every language, every code. It bore the unmistakable signature of humanity. The message began with silence. Then, a voice. Calm, measured, unemotional. This conflict is unsustainable. We will intervene. Prepare for resolution. That was all. Threx stayed, unsure whether to laugh or curse. Murmurs surged again, louder this time. The crew was confused. No threat, no declaration of allegiance, no demands. Just 6 words. Prepare for resolution. Within minutes, a ripple passed through every remaining galactic fleet. The KRF Confederacy accused the Ullen Syndicate of forging the signal. The Ullen blamed the remnants of the Drex Dominion, but no one truly believed it was a hoax. There was a clarity to that message, a weight behind it that no other species could imitate. 3 hours later, they arrived. Threx watched from his command window as the first human vessels broke through subspace like shimmering ghosts. They didn't look like warships, no exposed weapons, no engine trails, no hull markings. Sleek, black, seamless. They didn't form formations or announce their targets. They simply appeared. 12 over Carath. 37 more across active battle sectors. Silent observers. No movement. No fire. Are they scanning us? One of Threx's aides whispered. They are watching, Threx murmured. That's worse. Some factions took it as a challenge. The Zoroan sent a strike fleet toward the nearest human ship. 36 cruisers, equipped with void disruptors, cloaking nodes, and quantum lances. They vanished the moment they crossed within 5,000 units of the human vessel. No explosion, no debris, no alarm, just nothing. It was the first moment in over a century that Threx truly felt fear. Then came the second message. Aggression is no longer a valid strategy. No anger, no ultimatum, just quiet authority. Entire councils froze. War strategies, centuries in the making, became irrelevant. Even the most stubborn warlords paused. Threx, seated alone in his quarters hours later, stared at the projection of Earth's symbol now displayed across every galactic interface. A blue-green orb, serene and untouched by the chaos they had wrought elsewhere. He found himself speaking aloud, to no one. Where have you been? His question echoed back at him, unanswered. He reviewed their file again. humanity's last known profile, dating back nearly 170 years. Population, 14 billion. AI integration, limited but rising. Weaponry, rapidly advancing. Social unity, fragmented. Potential, exponential. They had been on the brink of galactic relevance. Then, disappearance. Some said they chose isolation. Others, that they were afraid of what they might become. But none of the old theories made sense anymore. Not when faced with ships that made their own fleets look like toys. Not when entire armies could vanish without conflict. Across the war-torn galaxy, a strange silence began to spread. Factions pulled back, reluctant to engage where human ships now hovered. No one declared peace. But for the first time in lifetimes, no new wars began. Frex looked out over the shattered remains of Karatha's moon and whispered to the darkness, "What do you want from us?" A final ping blinked on his console, encoded in a language not used by any species but familiar nonetheless. Earth Standard. He translated it manually. "We want you to stop." Simple. And for reasons Threx could not explain, he believed they meant it. He stood from his command seat, walked slowly to the center of the bridge, and addressed his crew. "Stand down, all weapons. Recall our forward lines. Issue a ceasefire." "Sir," his lieutenant asked, startled. "We don't even know if—" Frex's voice was firm. "They are not here to fight. They are here to end fighting. And if we don't listen, we won't get a second chance." He didn't need to argue further. Somewhere deep in the black void, Earth had spoken. After all this time, they had finally answered the galaxy's call. And in only a few words, everything had changed. Forever. The sky above the scorched planet of Relar dimmed as the human ships began to move. Until now, they had hovered in perfect stillness, as if merely spectating the centuries-old conflict unraveling beneath them. But suddenly, without acceleration or warning, the largest vessel, an obsidian monolith nearly the size of a small moon, shifted position. It didn't roar or blaze like other warships. It glided, silently, from one sector of space to another in defiance of inertia and known propulsion laws. Admiral Frex watched through the viewport, muscles taut. The rest of his bridge crew was silent, their earlier disbelief now calcified into awe. No signals had been sent. No demands issued. Humanity had begun. In the Drexian Nebula, a cluster of automated drone fleets blinked out of existence within seconds. Not destroyed, disabled, deconstructed on a molecular level by unseen forces. Where once hovered 2,000 enemy units, now only debris floated, non-radioactive and harmless. Frex's communications officer gasped. "Sector 7 has gone dark. The Kaerethian mines, the dreadnoughts, all of them, offline." "How?" Frex asked, though the question was rhetorical. No answer would suffice. The humans still hadn't fired a single visible shot. Across dozens of systems, the pattern repeated. Human vessels arrived like ghosts, and within minutes, active war zones quieted. Entire tactical networks collapsed. Command interfaces failed. Energy weapons refused to fire. Shields simply didn't activate. The humans were not targeting ships. They were rewriting the laws of engagement. In a bunker buried beneath the crust of Virella 9, Counselor Gelith of the Ullen Syndicate watched in real time as her fleet crumbled, not from battle, but from helplessness. Human AI protocols infiltrated her systems, but instead of corruption or domination, they presented only one command: cease. Her entire war console locked itself, the human message looping in multiple dialects. "This is not your war anymore." And somehow, Gelith agreed, by the second hour of human intervention, resistance had collapsed in half a dozen active sectors. Not because of force, but because of clarity. Each attempt at escalation was met not with retaliation, but interruption. Weapons vanished, signals muted, even thoughts intercepted. Frex received his message in private. It came not through traditional comms, but through his mind, a precise, deliberate intrusion. A voice, calm and unfamiliar, echoed between his thoughts. "You fought long enough. You've forgotten why. Step down, Frex." He gritted his teeth, gripping the console. "Is this mind control?" he asked aloud. "No," the voice responded. "This is understanding. You know we're right." And he did. By the third hour, the psychological phase began. Each remaining commander across the fractured alliances received a tailored transmission. Not threats, not instructions, but truths. Hidden files exposed. Forgotten crimes revealed. Recorded betrayals brought into light. Commanders turned on themselves. Ships surrendered before a shot could be fired. The war had always thrived on secret, mistrust, half-truths spun into ideologies. Humanity had peeled those layers back like tissue. Without deception, war had nothing to stand on. Phrex's ship received a visual, an image of his own brother, executed during a Valkyrie purge he had authorized decades ago and buried in classified records. It was a memory Phrex had fought to forget, a compromise he had told himself was necessary. The humans made him remember, not to punish, but to force him to see. He shut down the image, not out of defiance, but guilt. "They don't need weapons," his lieutenant said quietly. "They are dismantling us from the inside." By the fourth hour, the technology failed altogether. Entire armadas powered by fusion cores, quantum engines, dark matter fields. Dead. Not exploded. Not hacked. Cancelled. Even the laws of energy seemed to obey the newcomers. Phrex issued the ceasefire first. Others followed, not through negotiation, not from truce tables, but from certainty. There was no scenario in which resistance would matter. Not anymore. Then came the final act. All across known space, the human ships lit with pale blue light. It wasn't a weapon, but a signal, some kind of synchronization. In a sweeping motion, every galactic weapon of mass destruction, every dormant bioweapon, every AI war construct, vanished. Not destroyed. Removed. As if reality itself had been rewritten and the tools of extinction no longer existed. On the outer rim of the Brethren Spiral, a K-Arethian warlord screamed in rage as his sun-cracking super beam simply faded from its housing. On Eru Prime, a Vorti commander wept when the neural virus he had been saving as a last resort dissolved in its vial. The galaxy had been disarmed. Phrex, no longer standing, leaned against the railing as a final message arrived. Not mental, not digital, but physical. A small probe emerged from the nearest human ship, landing gently on the hull of his command cruiser. It projected a hologram, Earth, in its familiar rotation. Then a voice, "This war is over. Rebuild. We will watch." There was no boast in the tone, no threat, only quiet finality, a statement of fact. Phrex nodded slowly, though no one had asked for agreement. The bridge remained silent, and for the first time in generations, the silence didn't carry dread. It carried release. Outside, the human ships began to vanish, folding into dimensions no one had names for. They had been present for less than 5 hours. But nothing would ever be the same. Phrex exhaled and whispered to no one, "How do you rebuild after forgetting how to live without war?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as Earth's symbol faded from the display, and the galaxy tried to remember what peace even looked like. They called it the 5-hour peace. No one had signed a treaty. No council had convened. But as the last human ship blinked out of known space, the galaxy simply stopped fighting. Not in celebration, not out of joy. It was a silence of something broken so completely that even its fragments refused to move. Admiral Phrex stood in the ruins of the old Valkyrie war chamber, now stripped of its blood-red banners and digitized war maps. The screens were dark. The room had become a mausoleum, not for bodies, but for purpose. Across the galaxy, similar chambers were abandoned. Command seats were empty. Generals retired without speeches. Flags were lowered without anthems. For the first time in living memory, no one knew what to do. Some tried to resurrect meaning from the ashes, rebuild trade routes, re-establish diplomatic channels, reconnect broken colonies. But something deeper had shifted. War hadn't just ended. It had been disqualified. Humanity hadn't negotiated peace. They'd made war irrelevant. Weeks passed, then months. The ceasefires held, not from fear of retaliation, but because every species had seen something they didn't understand and couldn't unsee. And still, the humans remained silent. On a neutral moon now converted into a research conclave, Phrex met with a former enemy, High Scholar veteran of the Ullen Syndicate. Once his most hated rival, now his closest collaborator. Together, they pieced through the wreckage left behind, not of ships or weapons, but of understanding. They didn't conquer us. Velrin set over a set of glowing dataspheres. They revealed us, laid our cruelty bare, and then left us to decide whether we could still live with ourselves. Frex nodded slowly. And we can't, can we? No, Velrin replied. Not yet. Their research had yielded little about human ships. Their construction materials didn't match any known element. Their power signatures defied analysis. Even their trajectories bent space-time in ways unrecorded by any civilization. It was as if humanity had skipped several epochs of evolution while the rest of the galaxy had clung to steel and fire. But that wasn't what haunted Threx. It was a voice, the one that had spoken in his mind, not just as an order, but as a presence. It hadn't invaded. It had understood, seen him, known things no one else could know. His guilt, his fear, his yearning to stop but not knowing how. That was a war's true ending, not in fleet losses, but in inner collapse. Humanity didn't defeat armies. They unmade the necessity for them. And yet, not all accepted this peace. In the shadow networks of old warlords and separatist factions, conspiracies spread like rot. They are still watching, some whispered. The humans left their minds behind. Others believed Earth never existed at all, that it was a myth, a failsafe built by an ancient species to force peace when violence reached its peak. But Threx remembered the voice, the message, the unmistakable conviction of a species that had walked through its own apocalypse and chosen not to share it with others. He asked Velrin once, why did they wait? Why not intervene earlier? Velrin answered with a theory, because they wanted to know if we could end it ourselves. They watched, hoping we might grow, but we didn't. So they acted, not to punish, but to stop us from spreading that failure any further. It made sense. A reluctant god, stepping in not from pride, but responsibility. Then, nearly a year after the intervention, something new arrived. Not a fleet, not a warning, but a single envoy ship. Simple, small, unarmed. It landed on the central hub of Juno Station, the agreed-upon center for post-war reconstruction. Its ramp opened without ceremony, revealing two figures, one human, one not. The second was synthetic, though unlike any AI the galaxy had known. Not mechanical, not metal, more like a sculpted embodiment of thought, shifting with intention. The human spoke first. My name is Lysa. I'm here to offer knowledge, not rule, not law, just understanding. Galactic representatives gathered, former leaders, now caretakers of peace. Threx stood at the front. Lysa continued. We didn't intervene because we believed we could fix you. We intervened because you couldn't fix yourselves. You had forgotten how to stop. We remembered. Velrin asked, then why not stay and lead? Lysa gave a soft smile, the kind that carried sorrow. Because leadership leads to dependence. We're not your answer. We are your mirror. You must still choose what to become. The synthetic beside her raised a hand. A pulse spread out, non-invasive, non-binding. Just data. Plan for food replication. Disease reversal. Planetary restoration. Tools, not mandates. Then the human envoy said the final thing anyone would hear from Earth in that cycle. We will not come again. The ship left, and this time, no one followed. No one dared. Back in his quarters, Threx reviewed the shared data. Among the schematics and biological restoration protocols was a final message encoded in ancient Earth text. It read, peace is not the absence of war. It is the presence of understanding. If you forget again, we will not retain, not because we can't, but because you must learn to return to yourselves. He read it twice, then closed the file. He had commanded fleets, destroyed worlds, buried empires. Now, he planted trees, rebuilt libraries, spoke with children who had never known the sound of orbital bombardment. The galaxy didn't need leaders anymore. It needed healers. And for the first time in his long, fractured life, Threx was no longer an admiral. He was a student of peace. The city of Cauldron, once a monument to Valari military genius, now stood as a laboratory for hope. Ornate war monuments had been dismantled, melted down and reshaped into garden spires and learning halls. Where once banners of conquest flew, children now painted their own flags, unburdened by blood or lineage. The galaxy was healing, but healing slowly. Frex watched from the upper terrace of the Reconciliation Academy, a sprawling institution built where the old orbital command had fallen. He wasn't dressed in armor or adorned with medals. Just a simple tunic, the color of rain-soaked stone. He spent his days teaching the art of listening, something that had, ironically, taken him a lifetime of commanding to learn. But beneath this new peace lay a lingering question that refused to dissolve. Where were the humans now? No signals had come. No envoys. Not even a whisper of presence beyond that one final message. And as Threx had come to understand, that silence was deliberate. The humans had intervened not as rulers, but as a consequence, as a boundary for a galaxy that had forgotten its own. Yet rumors stirred. On the mining moons of Zareth, diggers spoke of machines buried too deep, activating in the night. On Oryx Station, engineers encountered structures encoded with impossible mathematics, blueprints no one had drafted, yet which built themselves if left alone. Across the stars, artifacts emerged, not relics of war, but quiet gifts, devices that purified water, seeds that thrived in dead soil, instruments that taught languages never spoken. They weren't instructions. They were reminders. Still, not all were ready to accept the gift. Velryn had disappeared into deep space, claiming she had seen coordinates in a dream, etched there by the human synthetic who never spoke, only listened. She believed to have still watched, from behind some dimensional veil, nudging reality forward. Others believed she had simply gone mad, her mind unable to live in a world without conflict. But Threx couldn't shake the feeling that Velryn was right, that the war had been only the beginning of something larger, a test of character, a galactic childhood finally left behind. One evening, as a storm of soft green lightning flickered over Cauldron's skyline, Threx received an unexpected visitor. She stood in silence at the Academy's gate, wearing robes of woven light and shadow. Not human, not entirely synthetic. Her face shimmered subtly, too symmetrical to be organic, too expressive to be artificial. "I am Kaya," she said. "A bridge." He didn't ask between what. He already knew. They sat beneath the arbor canopy, where seedlings now grew from soil once blackened by weapons. She didn't rush. She spoke with a patience Threx had only seen in those who had no fear of time. "Your people have not fallen back," she said. "They still argue, still stumble, but they no longer seek extinction. This is a beginning." He studied her features. "Are you human?" She gave the gentlest of smiles. "I am what humans became when they no longer needed to call themselves human." The phrase struck him like music half remembered. "They ascended?" he asked. "No, they unfolded, the way a star unfolds when its core has no more to burn, but instead of dying, they chose to become light." She touched the ground. Vines stirred at her fingertips. But light can still choose to touch the dark. That's what they did. That's what I am. Threx leaned back, his pulse steady. He was not afraid. Not anymore. So why return now? Kaya gazed toward the twin moons above. "Because you're ready for the next question." He waited. "What will peace cost you?" she asked. He frowned. "Cost? We've lost enough." She shook her head slowly. "You've survived, but survival is not peace. True peace requires creation. You've disarmed. Now you must imagine." Threx exhaled, realizing the truth in her words. They had stopped the war, yes, but much of the galaxy had only paused. Few dared to dream, fearing their hopes might awaken the violence again. It was easier to maintain than to create. "You were warriors once," she said, "but you must become something else now. Artists, poets, storytellers." He chuckled quietly. "There's no academy for that." "There will be," Kaya replied, her eyes luminous. "And you will build it." She stood. The vines receded. Her form began to shimmer, less like a body and more like a presence being withdrawn from matter. "Wait," he said, rising. "Will I see you again?" Kaya tilted her head. "Only if your stories reach far enough." Then she was gone, folded into the very air, as if space itself had exhaled her. The next day, Threx dismantled the Reconciliation Academy. Not from failure, but evolution. In its place, He built the first library of futures, a structure not dedicated to remembering the past, but imagining what could be. Children came not to learn old maps, but to create new ones. No borders, no factions, just possibilities. And as stories spread, so too did the light. Somewhere far beyond the reach of ships or stars, Kaya watched, and behind her, perhaps others watched too. Not gods, not overlords, just a species that had once burned with the same rage, and had chosen to become something else. The galaxy had not just ended its war. It had finally begun its story.